as most of us had so many years before that, but it had come full circle. So, again, I too had forgotten many years since I was a first year in college, but that your story brought it all back around to me, and I realized, that's the biggest blessing, but also what a wonderful gift for both families. I mean, when my stepfather passed away, that young man came to the service to see my mom and told everybody in the audience that he wouldn't be here, his kids wouldn't be here, he wouldn't have seen or done any of the things, and that he doesn't ever forget that it's my stepfather who had made the choice to continue his life, this voice of Brian's life in this world.
Wow, that's an amazing journey and story, Karen. Mercy, I can only imagine the gratitude that this young man felt, and I'm imagining that your stepdad probably felt a measure of gratitude too. What a humble and courageous thing for him to do.
Yep. Didn't think twice. That was very much who my stepfather was, which, makes me just that much prouder to even tell the story because, we, especially as teenagers or as young adults, kind of don't give our parents the credit. And until you're an adult, no less a parent yourself, does it even come more full circle to realize, really what a brave thing it was, because he put his family at risk just to jump in the water.
Yes.
So it's a wonderful thing for Brian, but it's an even prouder moment for the rest of us to realize he didn't think twice. He just he did what he needed to do, and it all came full circle and continued.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really foundational moment for you. And, clearly it impacted you. Your stepfather's prayer came full circle for you with the medical team pulling you out of that predicament, that car roll. And I'm just imagining that this is just a really foundational part of who you are, Karen.
Oh, absolutely. And I can remember because as wonderful as it was to be on the other side of, being alive, there's always trauma and pain that comes from recovery physically, mentally, emotionally. But I remember even today very vividly people saying to me, you've been blessed to be rescued just as Brian was. And I hope that you realize that there's some specific reason you're still here and that you have an opportunity and almost an obligation to live your life to its fullest for the repayment of that gift that they all did for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And at 18, 19 years old, that's a lot to handle, but as I think about it today, I think unconsciously, I know that. And that's part of what fuels that concept of pass it on, pay it forward, leave a little bit more behind than you took because you went through there. That's probably just an unconscious thought, yet foundational root to who I am and what I do.
Absolutely. And I know that you've passed it on in many ways, and I would love to hear you talk about the ripple effect in your own life. One of the things we talked about before this conversation was the work that you're doing with, is it Take Stock in Children? Is that the name of the organization in Florida, Karen?
It is.
Can you tell us more about that?
Oh, I would love to, especially since that's kind of one of those things where, I I don't know if we talked about it specifically, but I was born in New Jersey, lived in Pennsylvania, been through New York, been through Tennessee, and ended up in Florida. So I don't have the history of really knowing what Take Stock in Children was for Florida, except in the last couple of years. And only in conversation with someone else, a fellow business owner, what do you do? What do you like to do? What else do you do to stay involved and that kind of thing? She said, well, my favorite right now is Take Stock in Children. So that's only even the reason I found out about it. But it is an organization in the state of Florida that if a deserving child recognized through principal and teacher and kind of grades and commitment is identified, but also recognized that they will not be able to attend college if not for some assistance funding. So
Mm-hmm.
Take Stock in Children is an arm of the education system where if a child is matched with a mentor and makes the commitment on both sides, mentee and mentor, to meet regularly throughout the years they're recognized. So in my case, I have a student who was recognized as an 8th grader as being eligible for this program, which will give them a full scholarship at a Florida school if they meet these continuing requirements, which is keeping their grades up and meeting with their mentor routinely, which, as we know, and that was my kind of motivation, it's not just about the academics. It's about having someone in your corner who believes in you. Like,
Amen.
of all the things I knew growing up, even if you're great scholastically, that isn't the only reason that you can be successful in continuing education. It's having people in your corner, and sometimes that's family, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's family and somebody else. So for me, it was a way to encourage an individual who has the potential that they can do it, and that it's a combination of will and commitment and drive and perseverance and confidence, and having all of those things and those people to keep arming yourself for the challenges that come up in front of you. Yeah. She happens to be a student who has not had a parent or sibling go to college. So just the concept of attending and what to expect and how to be successful isn't something in her realm. Right. And so we need mentors to help, in my mind, students understand anything's possible. But it does help to have somebody else in your corner to help you be reminded of that, encouraged, and more confident to move forward in that.
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I used to work in learning and organizational development within the foster care system. Wow. And so I was working with people who were highly passionate and on point in terms of working with reunification, all of that. And the research that drove what we did was it basically showed it only takes one caring adult. One caring adult to make a difference in a kid's life. And so clearly the person that you're working with has other people in her life, but that mentorship that you're able to provide is just awesome. What a wonderful gift you're providing.
Absolutely. And you know what's fun is, and I know you've had that experience in putting your book together, in the process of spending time with her and having conversations, lots of people in my history that growing up or when I was attending college and things like that sprung up in my memory of what they said to me and books they may have suggested for me, and I'm thinking, we take all that for granted, and what a gift it is to not only help her, but also get the recollection of the people that have helped in my journey.
Yes, that's a nice reminder, because most of us, not all of us, but most of us have been helped along the way. And what a blessing it is to be able to pass that on to this young person, Karen. So hallelujah, thank you. Thank you for sharing
My
that.
pleasure, and I'm truly enjoying. I mean, every year we were laughing this year. So I've had her since 8th grade, so we've been through 8th, 9th, and we're in the midst of 10th at this point. And I'm thinking, I will walk with this girl for 5 years and then watch her graduate. I mean, to me, she's like another child in my family. I mean, I get so proud and so excited, and she's not driving yet, and just, again, walking the journey with her and hopefully just helping her stand up as tall as she can to do whatever she's designed to do in this world.
Absolutely. And as you're talking, I just keep getting these, we call them goosebumps or God bumps. And I can imagine this young person when she gets to that place where she's in college and then able to pass it along. I'm positive she will be able to do the same thing for other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you talked earlier about your fingerprint story. And a nice little tease. And I got to hear your fingerprint story several years ago at the IMC, part of the John Maxwell team. And I would love for you to share that story with our listeners, Karen, and the journey that you took to share it at the IMC.
Oh, I tell folks who ask me, especially, as far as our wonderful John Maxwell team family, seems so easy, you did it so well. I'm like, oh, you don't know the half of it to get there. So part of it is the story itself, and part of it is the journey to have gotten to the point to share the story. So I kind of want to give you just a little bit of perspective for those who may be listening who this may resonate for differently. I am not a speaker by any means, stretch of the imagination. I say I grew up an accountant. We speak numbers, not necessarily words as well. Unlike you, Gloria, it's a real challenge for me to be able to stand up and share a story. But my journey in being able to tell the story on stage for the John Maxwell team was figuring out that it was easier for me to tell a story about someone else than it was to necessarily tell a story about me. Never really thought my stories were of anything of the magnitude to stand in front of people where they would want to hear it, but the excitement about sharing someone else's point and maybe then just making a connection with it for me personally then gave me the opportunity to say, I know what story I'm going to tell. So part of my husband and I have been married more than 30-some years. We grew up in high school together, high school sweethearts, kind of went our separate ways, found each other again, and as they say, the rest is history. So he has a long history in law enforcement, in the Air Force first in that realm, and then in the public sector as a police officer and a detective. And so as I told the story on stage, one of the things we have been able to do over the years with law enforcement is watch on video some of his traffic stops. So in one case, he put, multiple cases, but at one point I finally recognized that he touched the back of the vehicle with his hand every time he stopped a car. So I asked the question, what is that? So are you doing that on purpose? And he kind of laughed because being, as we say, being law enforcement family, you figure out things that maybe the average person doesn't pick up on. And he kind of laughs now, and we talk about it. After this many years of being a cop's wife, I pick up on things. But when he shared that he touches the back of the vehicle and was taught this so that if anything happened to him, it could prove that he was there and he did a traffic stop on that vehicle, which of course made my heart just skip a beat. And as I tell the story on stage, I say, I realized then, as you know, when you're the family of the law enforcement, you know, but then you also realize in those kind of moments that every family member of law enforcement or military or anybody, first responders, has those kind of concerns. And that we're awfully blessed to have people in this world who will do that will get up every day, kiss their family goodbye, and not know what may be in front of them intentionally every single day. Mm-hmm. But I recognize that he is strong, that he is courage. He has I would never be able to do that. Like I quickly recognized in one breath how much I appreciate him, but also acknowledge that I'm so glad there are people in this world who do that. But then I go on to tell the story that as he leaves his fingerprint for that reason, I want to be intentional on leaving my fingerprint on this world in the way that I can use my gifts, my service, my talents, the blessings I've been given. Someone else may look at him like I do and think, I could never do that. I have people in my world who look at me and say, I could never do what you do. But it's our role, our responsibility to leave each of our own fingerprints with their gifts behind when we're not here anymore. So I liken it to, it may not be the courageous, I may not be the Superman of the world, but I have something to leave behind, and I want to leave my fingerprint for exactly what it is to have been through this world and given something and left something behind to serve for.
Wow, what an inspirational story and very powerful. I can only imagine what your husband and other law enforcement officers go through with that touch. And I love how you've, just reimagined it for yourself, and the intentionality around bringing your strengths, your gifts, your God-given gifts, and, making that fingerprint in other people's